Okay, guys, hello and welcome to the video editing portion and an overview of Premiere Pro and Adobe. For the next assignment, you guys are going to be editing a video, telling the story, and learning how to transition in between cuts and really make it compelling so that the viewer can watch through the whole thing. If we look at the assignment for this week, I do want to point out a couple of things. So obviously it is about a glasswork company, and your goal is to edit down to a 1-minute video. We're trying to hit 1 minute on the dot, and for certain media, social media, or needed to be a 1 minute YouTube video, or it needs to fit into a website and only 1 minute long. This is a really critical portion of video editing because you are allowed to edit down something that is, 9-10 minutes long to tell the story in just that 1 minute. So that's the biggest challenge I feel with this assignment. So I do want to point out a couple more things. You do want to incorporate both A-roll and B-roll, as we talked about in the lesson. A-roll being the person on screen, right? So they're talking here. This is the A-roll. And anything else, any detail, image, or these little pieces of glass or big, this is B-roll. Anything else when the person is not talking directly to the camera. Even if, guys, there is someone else working here, even if a person is on screen but they're not talking to the screen, this is still considered B-roll. Okay, so just to clarify those. And right here, you'll see create at least 5 cutaways. This is important too, because you do want to incorporate as much B-roll as you can while still telling the story or helping tell the story. So A-roll is obviously going to be the part that says the story. Literally, they're talking to the camera, and B-roll as well. We talked about in the lesson this week that, B-roll can appear as the person is talking, right? So you can still hear the person telling the story as the viewer, their mind is watching the cutaways, right? The B-roll clips. Adding music, some of you have turned this in already, the free music archive, or we talked about the Purple Planet. Putting music in the background of this is going to help tell the story. And in today's tutorial, I'll really dive into this, adding lower thirds, as you will see right here. This is an example of a lower third, right? Anything technically lower than a third of that video. So this is a pretty key term in video. Is, are there lower thirds, or can you change the lower thirds to say? This is what they're talking about. Anytime someone is on camera, or even a location, right? It could just be, the buildings here, and it says, Paris, or something, and the date. Anytime there is text in that lower third of the video, that's the lower thirds that they're referring to. So here's a great example of A-roll and B-roll. She is speaking to the camera, and then B-roll is just the footage. All right, let's dive in. So, we'll go back to, here's Premiere Pro. We're going to go new project. Remember to save this in a location that you were going to remember and know. Believe we're going to call it last name and demo, video demo edit. We'll double check that in a second. So here I have name, business, and state, my story on the web, Premiere Pro. See, I organized the things lately. Choose this, and let me double check what we are going to be calling this. Okay, well, no rules here as it applies. Let's go ahead and just do last name, video demo edit is perfect. Yeah. So I'll say bulge co. Video demo edit. and I'm saving that in my proper folder. So I'll say okay. I'll replace that because we already did this in class. Okay, you're gonna see, you know, the basically the dashboard here, all your panels and everything. We will go through these and you'll sort of learn them as I'm doing this demo. I think that might be the most helpful instead of me just putting random footage in there. And remember, this is your import media section, and this is your timeline section right here. Okay. A preview window, and then your final video edit, but we'll get there. So let's jump back into Canvas and let's download the demo clips here. And you want to download both of these. So I think I see it happening. It might take a while. We might have to edit this out. Gee. Oh, there we go. If this is taking a while at first, don't give up on it. I think what Google does is it sort of downloads everything first before that little circle ticker even ticks. But all right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to take this, unzip it, right? So let me go to downloads. Let's unzip this folder. So now we have A roll and B roll. I'm going to, just so we can talk about some like better file organization, I'm going to go ahead and put this into my same Premiere Pro week folder, so I know exactly where these clips are. And that way, if I give this to anyone, and I give them this whole folder, right, this whole folder right here, it's going to include the project file, which is here, and the clips, which is here. So the other thing I want to note is your music should also go in this, the music that you're using in the video, in this level, right? So you want this folder to house everything. And any other things too, you know, if you had additional photos or if you have other video clips, if you have someone talking, like a .mp3 of just other, any source files is what they're called, you will want them in this folder. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to just, now I'm taking both of these and I'm going to drop them into my file. So give us a second to pop up, importing files, so you know that's there. Again, just to reiterate, you guys can drag and drop these into your project folder. You can double click into this project folder and select from there. And you can also do a Command or Control I for import and import that way. So really quite a lot of ways to import. So I'm not going to do this necessarily like as well as you guys are going to do it, but I do want to just go through here and show you kind of the workflow and how I would approach this project. So when you get into any of your project files and I double click on any one of these, it's going to bring up the video here in this preview window, right? This is not your final video edit. This is just a preview window. And one thing I love to do is I love to use my hotkeys, spacebar for playing and stopping, I on the keyboard for in, and O for out, which we'll talk about. But basically, these are going to cut and crop a certain amount of video. So if you hit I on the keyboard and you hit O on the keyboard, it'll crop it. I'll show you what I mean here in a second. So if I hit spacebar, right, I'm going to preview what this lady is going to say. So here we'll hit spacebar, make sure our volume's up. Make sure you're on the panel. This is a really big important thing. If your blue line here, if you click on this panel, it's selected. If you click on any one of these panels, they are also selected. Please click on this panel before you try to cut or hit spacebar to play like I just did.
And so we do know what we're going to get basically, but what we're doing, which is a little different than, say, creating a painting or a clay pot, is we're wielding glass that's 2,000 degrees, and it's very heavy on the end of a 5-foot pipe.
Okay, so first things first, this is a nicely shot and framed video right here. You have this sort of blurry background. She's obviously the focal point here, and the colors are good, they're rich and everything. And her audio,
and we're harnessing that energy.
Yeah, the audio is not horrible. But what I would like to do is I need to find parts that can tell the story in 1 minute. And that's the challenge. And I love video editing because of this puzzle. So you're going to go through here and just kind of, you're going to watch. I mean, it's really 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. You kind of have to watch and scrub through this and then start picking out some key parts. And we'll pick out key parts by using those keyboard shortcuts I and O, in and out, or setting those frame markers, and then pulling in the video into our timeline. So here's a little demonstration of that. Let's go ahead and just watch a part and pretend that that's the first thing in our story that we want to tell the audience.
Also, I love the privilege of actually having the opportunity to dip my blowpipe into incredibly hot glass and make the magic happen.
Oh, let's see. Why is that?
Also, I love
trying to figure out why that was so short.
Because we're giving a romantic story on our pieces. I call it romantic because I think it's almost a poetic expression in our glass.
Okay, so for example, let's just say I really like that part. It's almost a romantic expression in our glass. So I'm gonna take this and scrub it back. And when right before that part comes in, I'm gonna hit I on the keyboard.
Story on our pieces. I call it romantic because I think it's almost a poetic expression in our glass. Romantic because I think it's almost a poetic expression in our glass. Instead of words, it's a feeling, but we're telling the story around the piece with our design.
So you guys are free to chop and crop this up however you want. As an example, I just wanted to show you that I hit I here on the keyboard and O here on the keyboard. And now I have this clip, okay? So this clip, if I take this preview image right here and I drag and drop it into my timeline, I'm going to get only that clip right? Only what's highlighted here. And I can adjust this by doing this. And now if I play back in my main timeline, right? This is what we export here is the final product. So as I watch this back, I'm going to be able to preview exactly what I got out of it. And if I need to make any adjustments, I can go ahead and adjust these things here. As you'll see, the audio does stay with the video, okay? And if you're wondering why does it jump up like this? These are simply just levels. So let's go ahead and just talk about the timeline real quick. Each of these different levels, or layers really, each of these different layers are layers of video, okay? they are denoted by V1, V2, and V3. I don't know why it keeps doing that line there. And down here, these are layers of audio, okay? And they are denoted by A1, A2, A3. Anytime you have a video, full transparency, so you don't do anything to it, but let's just pretend, we take her, this other video and put it on top. The video that is on top is the one that you're going to see, okay? This other one now is basically hidden. And when we put in B-roll, we're going to use this exact technique. So she can be talking, and it jumps to B-roll. But the one thing I don't want is this audio right here. Okay, so we'll talk about that when we put in B-roll. But for right now, my focus is to tell the story with just her and keep it under the 1 minute marker right here. Okay, so if you kind of scrub and modify your timeline how you want it, keeping an eye on that this is 1 minute. So 1 minute does go by pretty quickly. So keeping your clips shorter, and telling the whole story in 1 minute. So anyhow, let's pretend we go through here and we pick out more clips and we put this in here, and it's starting to, feel like a And let's pretend, oh no, we hit right over a minute. So your job is to go back through here some way, somehow, and edit this down so that it really does become 1 minute, okay? Once you watch all of this back and everything makes sense, then you have to go find some B-roll footage to put in here and really tell this story, okay? So again, I'm not going to make you guys watch me preview everything. But you want to go through here, and when you double click these, remember, this is your preview window right here. This is your preview window. You're just previewing what these clips even are, okay? And then that gives you a chance to find the best of the best, crop it down to only what you need, and then take that and put it into your final timeline, or your final composition. And this window is what is outputted, right? That's the final thing that Premiere Pro is going to export. This is your final video that you're going to name, last name, video demo edit dot MP4 is going to be your file format. So let's go ahead and, again, some of these shots, I really do think like these are nicely filmed. We've had some pretty interesting videos to demo edit before in this class, and this is of the much nicer. So pretend I like this shot, and I just want this clippet of it, and I want this, just pretend, instead of me seeing this jump cut from her talking,
and the image,
that shoulder movement looks really strange. So I'm going to put this right on top of here, as sort of to cover it up, but also help tell the story. So let's go ahead and preview this. I'll shut up for a second so you guys can hear.
But we're telling a story around the piece with our design and the imagery as well, trying to discover what he or she.
Okay, so in my opinion, doesn't really make sense with the story, just doing a demo. But it's a little too long. That clip goes a little too long. In my video editing experience, I have found that there is a very small attention span for our audience. So moving the story along as fast as you can without being, crazy or overly fast or complicated, but really just trying to get the point across and move on. That clip doesn't need to last a whole 20 seconds or 10 seconds if it doesn't need to. Okay, so there's one. Let's go ahead and, it's kind of a cool clip. Let's just go ahead and put it in there. And again, I'm layering these on top, you guys. You can see that's on V2, which is that top layer. And my main job is to tell the story. My secondary job is to cover up all of these transition marks, right? So you're going to see a jump cut, and it's going to be glitchy at any time these clips are butted up against each other. So, go through here and find these clips. I'm just putting these in for right now. And they can start, even if it starts on that, it doesn't always have to overlap. But at least it's, moving the clip along, and it doesn't look strange that she just glitches for a second. That's a cool clip. Very long. You can see that I'm not even choosing my arrow or my tools over here. Really, just using the move tool can give you a lot of different flexibility in editing here. So I'm just taking the edge of it and extending. You can even see a very nice preview what exactly where you're doing that. And then I can take this clip and move it wherever I want on the timeline. Again, I'm just trying to cover up these little transition clips so that I have something there. All right, now I want to talk about a couple different things. The first is the lower thirds. So now that you've told your whole story in 1 minute, and you've thrown the B-roll clips on top of here, and please, if you want more B-roll clips or find something like really cool and interesting that's helping tell the story at that point, put as many as you feel necessary to help tell the story on top of that timeline. So to make some lower thirds, let's just pretend we want those lower thirds just as little bit after she starts talking, which is kind of nice. You want to give the viewer just a moment to listen to her or the person on screen. A second just to get to know who they are, and then introduce them, right? Some videos or documentaries wait a little longer. That's up to you. And for this assignment, let's hop back into Canvas. We need to make sure that we give this info. Anything in red, guys, is usually like a very important thing. So a 1 minute video and this info right here. So Susie Mira, owner, Melt Glassworks, Kent, Ohio. Okay. I'm going to look at this and just kind of think about it for a second. I think that easily, that can be, this just says Susie Mira, owner, but I think that could easily be on 2 and or 3 lines. So just maybe sketch something out real quick. I'll say Susie Mira is the biggest and most important thing, right? We'll go ahead and do 3 lines for this demo. I'll say owner of let's go ahead and say of Melt Glassworks. That's fine. And Kent, Ohio can be on that final line. But remember, this part right here is going to be either the most bold or the biggest font. The rest of this it's still important information, but it's kind of subsidiary. It's kind of the second most important. So now that I have that as a plan, I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to go to my Essential Graphics tab, right? We'll talk about effects in a second, because effects is a very important part of Premiere Pro and video editing. But for right now, let's go to Essential Graphics. And you can see, even on my machine, I have a bunch of different titles and different things. And you're not going to have these because I've downloaded them from elsewhere. But some things are free. But we're going to create our own. So let's go ahead and go to Edit. And hit this new layer and go to text. Okay. And as soon as you hit that, you're going to see some text appear on screen. I don't like this font, but that's okay. That's besides the point. We want to place this in the spot that we want this to show up, right? So if you want your lower thirds over here, you can do that. If you want your lower thirds in front of her, you can do that. And here is a way to resize that text layer. So I'm going to resize that, and let's go ahead and actually, we'll go right aligned. We'll switch it up. So a couple of things I want to first do. First, I'm going to switch this. I don't really care for this minion pro. Let's just choose, I want something a lot more simple. And that's very light. Mr. Eves. Anything you have on your machine, I'm going to assume you guys have a lot of these. So I like this. It's very simple. They're, plain sans serif. But her name is Susie Mira. M-I-R-A, Susie with an I. You can definitely copy this. So I'm just going to type in Susie Mira here. I am also going to do a couple things. So you see I changed the text where it's, it says text. I changed the font. You can change the alignment here as well. So now this is right aligned, which is what I wanted. If I want to go back and move this, I do have to select my move tool, okay? You can also do this by moving it just with the tools available. So I'm gonna do that just so I can really be picky about exactly where this is. So this is your X axis and your Y axis, meaning side to side, it's going to move it, and then up and down, this number is going to move it. And if you want to get really in particular, so that we can remember, like if you can remember 600, you can always type that in for the next one, and that's just on the up and down. And if you wanted to remember 1185, it's going to always land right here this way. So now that let's jump back into my move tool. It has apparently given me a new one. Let's see. Screen. I don't know why that. Okay. Well, if it creates a random text box for you, just delete that out of there. You don't want that. And well, we want a new layer, and we do want a new text layer. So now you can see this is huge, but I want to do a similar thing. I'm going to make this right aligned so that I know the right of it, this part, is going to be aligned with the Susie Mira. I am going to make this much smaller. This is my, the percent right here is how small or how large it's going to be. Just gonna bring that down. I'm going to put in the rest of my information. Owner, Melt Glass Works, that's all I want on that line. And I don't want this as thick, so I'm just gonna keep the same font so we can have some continuity. And I'm just gonna change that to regular. And actually, I'm going to make it just slightly less white. I'm going to choose just a softer gray to kind of make that a little less important. Okay, so just some design choices. I want you guys to do whatever you think is necessary. And well, I think 1185 was where we were on our last one. And then I can just bring that down. and you can see that it's pretty nicely aligned. And that looks decent, right, for lower thirds here. And as we're making this, I'm debating on putting in Kent, Ohio. Let's not. Well, shoot. I just hate to ruin it because it looks so nice. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. I want to. I'm going to copy and paste the same thing so we don't have to make it all over again, but I am going to bring this down. And I am even going to make it a little smaller. Well, it doesn't look awesome, but for the purposes of this tutorial, and I'm going to even fill it with a little, let's see, a little more gray, just to really make it quite unimportant. Okay. For this demo, that's fine. I think it serves as a lower third. If you do want it a little more aesthetically pleasing and you don't need Kent, Ohio in there, I would opt for just the 2 lines, or even putting Kent, Ohio in italics, or doing something a little different with it. It's just so short to be on the end. Anyhow, as we edit this essential graphics part, I want to note that Premiere Pro has created its own layer, or text box, that has gotten placed on top of all of the footage. Okay, so if we zoom in here, you can see that this text comes in right as the box, this pink box right here, appears on our timeline. Okay, so that means if you wanted to move it to a new layer, or a new layer, and even move it on top of B-roll, right? Well, it wouldn't make sense unless you're transitioning. You should make sure that it is on top of when you see her, or when the viewer sees her. But let's just say, you know, it's on there for too long. You do want this to be a little shorter, and you change your mind. You want to intro her a little sooner. You can move and modify this however you want. So let's go ahead and watch this back, and I want to show you what we just did in just this simple Essential Graphics tab.
I think it's almost a poetic expression in our glass.
Okay, so I am only previewing at 1/4 resolution. This is just a way to quickly watch my videos as I edit them. You can opt for full, right? And if you play this back, it will give you full resolution. It just takes a little longer to render.
Almost a poetic expression in our glass.
So for me, not bad. I do want this to come in a little softer. So right now I'm going to show you just a little bonus thing in Premiere Pro, and something I use very often are effects. So in your effects tab right here, you only see these 6 folders: video effects, audio transitions, audio effects, etc. But in each of these folders, there is so many effects to apply, to experiment with, to really get a lot out of your video editing experience. And I urge you really to look through some of these, because some of them, even if you just take this effect and go ahead and place it on a movie clip or the B-roll clip, it can change things a lot depending on what you want to do with your video. So you see, I took that effect, I dragged it on top of just this this clip, and I'm going to go into my effects controls, because now I want to control that effect. And I'm in effects controls right here now, or effect controls. And I'm going to scroll all the way down to levels, and this is the effect that I put on here. Now, some of this stuff can get crazy complicated, and there are people that color grade for a living, meaning they just adjust colors in the video. But if you just take one of these, for example, and kind of modify it, you can see a very dramatic difference that this that this effect can have. So the possibilities really are quite endless in this. And if you don't like an effect, you just you can click this FX. Basically, it's the visibility, that eyeball in Photoshop. You can click this on and off just to see what it looks like. If you're really unhappy with it, just click on it and delete it out of your clip. One effect that is, maybe it's a little too commonly used, but there is an effect called cross dissolve. I really like cross dissolve for things like text or not every video clip, but just using it wisely and using it sparingly. Cross dissolve, you'll see what it does here in a second. It offers a very gradual opacity increase till the clip gets to 100%. So let's watch this back and you'll see the text just pops up, right? I want a little more subtle fade in. And we're going to achieve that with cross dissolve right here. And just by putting it on our text clip.
Almost a poetic expression.
Okay, so it just popped in. I don't love that. I'm going to take cross dissolve and put this right on the beginning here. And I'm going to watch this as it now just fades in from 0 opacity, 0%, meaning can't see anything, to 100% opacity, meaning you can see everything.
Poetic expression in our glass.
And, you know, I'll extend this just a little bit, and I'll actually just put it at the end too. Watch that back and see what it looks like.
Poetic expression in our glass. Instead of words, it's a view.
Cool. Now, the same thing can apply to things like this video, you know, the B-roll clip right here.
Telling the story around the piece with
I'll show you what that looks like.
the story around the piece with our design.
And if you like this look, you can do that. The reason I just want to make sure you guys use it sparingly is that it doesn't appear on every video you ever make and every clip that you always put in. There's so many more effects, and I do want you to experiment with them. That is one, though, that I find like pretty professionally used. Some other things, you know, let's just say, let's try this cross zoom and show you. This to me is a little more PowerPoint presentation, but if it fits your work, awesome. Or if you modify it enough, also awesome. I just want to warn you guys that some of these look a little tacky, and you should be very careful in what you're using as far as transitions or effects.
Too, and allows that story to.
Oops. And that's not actually the one I wanted to show you. Let's see this.
Too, and allows that.
This to me.
Too, and allows.
Unless it really fits your video, I don't love that. The cross zoom is fine. This is
too, and allows that story.
This is like in music videos and things like that. One thing I want to point out is that if this cross dissolve happens too fast or too slow, if I zoom in here, I can actually modify the cross dissolve to be a shorter effect to get into the words, or make it longer so that it has a longer time to get to full opacity. Just a tip for you guys. Great. Okay, so the last thing is putting in music and exporting the video. Let's go to FMA, the Free Music Archive. And sometimes I like to just click on soundtrack, which usually has no vocals, or sometimes ambient, you know, things that they're not so distracting. And I've already heard her talk a lot, and as you've already heard me talk a lot, but I'm just going to go through here and just kind of think about, you know, what music might go well. Remember, we're going to level this, make sure it's just a quiet little backing track. And let's play some of these. No. I think that's too spacey. That's not bad. I think this one up here, you know, again, we're not going to take a lot of time just to find the absolute perfect one here. This song is free to use under specific conditions. Please, let's go through here and read this. This is a non-commercial, right? So you can't use this for free. Attribution required, so you must give appropriate credit. And you can't use this for commercial purposes. Again, you guys, for this demo edit, you know, this is, it's important, but it's not, you're not posting this anywhere. You're not giving it out as a commercial. So just so that you know when you go through this practice, it's very good to know if you can use this without attribution required, or, you know, if you can use it for a commercial, etc. Always good to know. So I understand and agree, download the song. And now, instead of taking this clip and dragging it right into my footage, remember, I do want to make sure this goes into my source folder. So here's my Premiere Pro folder. Here's my project. Here are all my demo clips. And I'm going to put the music right in here, right in the main folder. Okay, so I'll take this. I'll put it in here. So now I know exactly where it's at. Now I can import it into my my file. So I have my A roll, I have my B roll. For this example, this is a sequence. You see this icon that looks like the timeline, really. This is called a sequence, okay? And as soon as you take this clip and you drag it into the timeline and it's creating your this new timeline, you've essentially created a sequence. The rest of these here, the rest of these that look like this is a video, I'll show you. And this is a video with audio. You can see that there's audio in here. And this is just a JPEG, so it's simply just a photo. And again, you can preview all of these. Right now, I'm going to create a new folder, or a new bin, as they say in Premiere Pro. And I'm going to just click on this right here. And I'm going to name this music. You guys can have a folder for music. You can have a folder for, you can even have a separate folder for sound effects. You can start putting bins in other bins to sort of help keep you organized. This, for this project, is a very simple, you know, there's only going to be so many things that you need to, only 3 layers for your full video. Actually, really only 2, you can put that down here. And a couple audio layers, really. So you don't need to go crazy, but it is good to know how to make and organize your bins or your folders here. So I'm going to take this music clip that is in my Premiere Pro folder, and I'm going to go ahead and drag it into the actual project in music. So now you can see it, it lives in this music. You can also color these if you want to label it a different color. Tan, who likes tan? Magenta. And you can even, you know, color the clips or the music the same colors. You can kind of keep everything together if you like that. So let's go ahead and take this music clip, and I'm just going to drag it into the second layer. I'm not going to place it on top of my full audio right here. Okay. Remember, very important, this and down is the audio layers, and everything above are your video layers. Okay, it's kind of how Premiere Pro works. Unlike the video clips where one completely replaces the video, the audio will be mixed together, exactly like Adobe Audition, where we edited our podcast and we had backing music and sound effects, etc. The audio will work the same way. So you'll preview that here in a second. We're going to take this audio clip and drag it in. And there is a very similar cross dissolve. I'll show you exponential fade that we'll also use. That's why I really like using the cross dissolve and the exponential fade for things like the backing track. Let's go ahead and just preview this and just hear, listen to what it sounds like and kind of watch what it's doing.
The imagery as well. I can discover what
Okay, super loud. That is way too loud. And what we're going to do to resolve that is I'm going to open up or make this bigger, rather. This is my second layer in my audio. And this is the backing track. I know that because it's pink. I colored it, or magenta, I colored it. And but also because it is it's much longer than the clips, right? So I know that's this thing is more like 2.5 minutes. You can always get the exact time if you hover over it. Oh, it's 3 minutes and 37 seconds duration. So I do want to clip that down, right? So that it ends as the clip ends. We need to hit that 1 minute mark. All right. So I'm going to take this. This is the volume, and you can see where it's going to negative decibels. And I'm going to, let's go ahead and just try negative 13, like we usually level audio. Who knows if this backing track is different or this audio is leveled different? Let's just preview that.
And allows that story to continue around the piece.
Okay, so still very loud, and I'm just going to go ahead and drop it down a lot more.
Wyatt wielding glass that's 2,000 degrees and it's very heavy.
That's much better, and I'm going to now use the razor tool, just like the razor tool in Adobe Audition, and I'm going to just chop this. And as you see, I have this like sort of nice snapping effect on here. I'm going to just chop it and delete. I'm going to go back to my move tool, delete this, whatever's left over here. Let's watch the end of it and just see what it sounds like.
And that's halfway through. So we've got to that point.
Okay. So obviously an abrupt ending. This is just the demo video. But I want to, so you can use one of these effects and you can just place this at the end and listen to what that sounds like. You can, again, even modify this.
Also planning it out well before we begin. And that's halfway through. So we've got to that point.
Okay, so that's not bad. And if you don't want that, I'm simply clicking to delete that. I'll show you real quick. Oh. If I don't want this, I just click on exponential fade. You can't click on this whole thing and delete. It will delete your whole track. But please click on just the exponential fade. You'll even watch it highlight, and then you can delete it. The other thing I want to note is how to just take this decibel, the volume level, and you're going to create a keyframe by clicking on it. So you're going to hit Command or Control on your keyboard, and you're going to get this plus happening as soon as you hover over the volume line here. And if you click on it, it's going to create a keyframe. We'll really dive into these in a couple weeks or 2 weeks when I see you guys again. But you're going to create 2 keyframes, and I like to do this at the end so that I have full control of the levels here. As you see, it's going to go from whatever volume it's at, negative 24 decibels, to it's going to drop off to 0, okay, or negative in this case. So let's go ahead and preview this again and just see if it's doing what we want it to do.
We've got to that point.
Okay, and it's not. That's clearly way too fast. So I'm just going to take this, hold shift, and I'm going to drag it. Kind of don't realize where you are in the timeline if you zoom out.
Before we begin. And that's halfway through. So we've got to that point.
All right. So one thing I want to note is that we did not hit 1 minute, right? This is 59.15. Now, depending on the platform or the person in charge, maybe this will make them mad. But maybe just hitting that 1 minute will make them, you know, extremely proud and happy. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is at 1 minute exactly. I'm just going to go ahead and type in 1. That's for the minute. This is for the seconds, and that's for the milliseconds. So I'm going to go ahead and click enter. And my playhead here, on this timeline, is going to jump to 1 minute exactly. That way, I can take the footage that I have, and I'm going to stretch that out to just 1 minute. And when we render this, or export as the full video, it's going to go to 1 minute exactly. Okay, so let's pretend I'm super happy with how this whole thing turned out, and I know that there's no other clips outside of here. Okay, and I'd like to then just take all of this. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to Export Media. And here is my preview of what's going to be outputted. Okay, so I can even play it through and scrub back and see how I did. You know, quickly watching and seeing like, okay, and making sure that it is indeed hitting the 1 minute marker. Okay. All right, now a couple things on the export settings. This is important. So if you've gotten this far in the video, I'm super proud of you, but this one, just turn up the volume and make sure you know how to export. Here's how to export. So your format, the format you're going to be encoding in is H.264, okay? So big important thing right here, guys, is the format. Oops. Is H.264. It is just a codec, right? This is the way that you're going to export this with the maximum quality and the lowest file size. You are able to export in QuickTime. You can export a .mov. For this assignment, a .mp4 is the highest quality and in addition to, right, the highest quality for the smallest file size. So H.264, super important. Please see this part on the video, because if you guys don't try to upload a huge file that's not MP4. You're gonna get something else, a .mov or something else. Okay. You want to export video and you want to export the audio. So if these are not both checked, please check both of these. The output name. Okay, this is, you need to change this because even though I named my file Vultco demo edit, I need to name this here Vultco video demo edit. Just please name this something so I know it's you, and that it just doesn't say Susie and something. But that's exactly how you'll name this. And make sure you know where this is going. So right now it's going to the desktop. And I want to make sure that it's going to exactly where I need it to go. So in my story on the web, I have my Premiere Pro folder, and that's where I want this clip to go. Okay, so I'll say save. All of this down here, for right now, we're not going to mess with changing the size of it or, you know, frame sampling or anything like that. I will say, in order to make this just a little smaller file size, you can opt to do this. If you want to, you can just drop this down to a bit rate of 5 megabytes per second. is just a lower quality, but I'll know that you cut this video. And now instead of 77, so this is the estimated file size here, which is 77 megabytes. Watch that as I drop this down to 5. It's about half, right? So you are knocking down some quality, but really it's going to take a keen eye to really tell the difference in this case. Now, if you drop this down to 1 or even 2 or 3, something really low, the quality of your video is going to get shaken. You don't want that. And I'm saving it as Vultco Video Demo Edit. I'm saving it in the exact place that I want it to. I'm going to be able to upload that to my student share folder, and all is good. So I'm going to hit export. Premiere Pro is going to do its thing. It's going to basically encode everything on that .mp4. And you're going to hear this awesome ding when it's done. It's so satisfying. Oh no, it didn't do it. Maybe I shut that off. Oh no, okay. Well, anyhow, usually if I hear a render is done, it dings. Maybe I shut that off, but I'm going to save my file, and it has been auto-saving, as you can see some of those things that pop up. But I'm just gonna say Command S or File, Save. I just wanna make sure that I'm saving my file in case anything happens. I know some of you have already emailed me telling me you've lost your work before. Luckily, Adobe does an awesome job of auto-saving, so always check the auto-save, but always just practice the saving is nice. So I'm going to go then into my student share folder. Which is in a new profile, all these profiles. Here, and oh, in my video demo edit, I don't know why I couldn't see that forever. And I'm going to click in here, and this is where I will put the video. Okay, so now I know exactly where it's at. It's right here. That's my final video, and I'm going to go ahead and just drag this and upload it to the student share folder. All right, guys. That's it for this tutorial. I hope you found a lot of more helpful and sort of calmly explained things in this tutorial. And just remember that you have until the 30th by Tuesday at midnight to turn this in. So you have plenty of time, even if you just take like a couple minutes and watch through all the footage one day. And then the next day you sort of just tell the story. The next day you put in B-roll. It does not have to be extremely professional, but do the best you can. I'll be interested to watch these. Thanks, guys.